Judicial Commissioner, Maryland Court of Appeals. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome Mr. Gabriel Christian.
I can't even. Can you zoom on this?
Yeah.
Huh?
Let's give him a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Fine gentlemen here. Maybe for the first time in history, the introduction will be longer than the speech.
This is horrible.
Thank you very much. First of all, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Lions, and I believe there are a few, maybe lionesses in the crowd as well. Distinguished guests, high officials, brothers and sisters.
Oh my God.
I am very honored and in fact humbled to be chosen by the board of the Midtown Washington DC Lions Club to address you this evening.
This camera's not good.
And when I walked in this evening and I saw Dennis Hermanstein and of course Mr. King and Royston and all the others, I realized that I was in the company of family. In 1982, I came to DC and I lived in an apartment building at 811 Quincy Street at the corner of Quincy and Georgia. Now, for anyone who's familiar with Washington, D.C. in that period, they may well remember a certain waterfall in the Republic of Guyana, the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, South America, by the name of Kaicha. And for those who have memories of Kaicha, please raise your hands so you may be identified. Don't be ashamed. A round of applause for the Kaicha, ladies and gentlemen. And I don't want to stray off the subject, but I have said that it's about time that we have a Kaicha reunion of some kind. Can I hear it from you, ladies and gentlemen? And so we will do it in such a way that at the end of the day, we can make the reunion meaningful. We will enjoy ourselves, but we will do so with a degree of social responsibility. So maybe the proceeds from that reunion can redound to the benefit of the Lions of Midtown, Washington, D.C. A round of applause for the idea, ladies and gentlemen. We can party with a purpose. We can party with a purpose. And it's in that regard, therefore, that I must say to you this evening that life is indeed strange. Because in this room is my mother.
Oh my God.
My mother is 81 years old. But about 20-some odd years ago, she got the National Order of Merit of the island of Dominica from no less a person than the Iron Lady of the Caribbean, the Right Honorable Dame Mary Eugenia Charles. Say hello to my mother, lady. Raise your hands, Mom. And please, I know it's kind of late. I know I have to stand up because what I'm going to say to you is really, really interesting. Because when my brother Royston D'Souza and the other fine brothers and sisters and Pablo and the others decided to invite me to speak, I doubted very much that they knew how my own life, that of my family, and Dominique had been touched by the work of the Lions movement. Because you see, back in the day, when you were disabled, it was a shameful thing. Am I right? You are supposed to be unheard, unseen, and the subject of pity, and maybe someone to whom a few pennies could be thrown. But after World War II, around the Caribbean, the British Social Welfare Department began the process of trying to integrate people who were disabled into society. And as a result of that virtue, ladies and gentlemen, they started in Dominica something called the Workshop for the Blind. And the Workshop for the Blind, very shortly after it was founded, drew the support of a service organization. And that service organization was the Lions Club of Dominica. And do you know, yes, let's hear it, the Lions Club of Dominica. Let's hear it, ladies and gentlemen. And as a 7- and 8-year-old child, I would attend fundraisers. They would have the little waistcoats, blue, with the insignia on the left breast, like Mr. Chin's, Mr. Chin, where's Mr. Chin? Very eloquent gentleman. I met him, construction magnate somewhere here. He has a blazer with a lion, but you know what I'm talking about. It's over here. And they would begin the meetings with this interesting, I'm not sure whether you do it, but they would say, lions, roar. Lions, that's how they do it. And they raised funds sufficiently so that in about 5 to 10 years, I believe, they raised enough money to build the first headquarters for the workshop for the blind. And yes, the workshop for the blind was built by the Lions Club of Dominica. Round of applause for that. And you know, the entire process also was not simply to give a handout.
10 more minutes and he has to make
My mother took blind people onto the stage in Dominica and had them act out a play, and the proceeds of that play went into the building of the workshop for the blind. And I share this because oftentimes in humanitarian efforts and in philanthropy, the mistake is made to give handouts. And then when the money is expended, the folks come back the next year for a grant and the next year for a grant. And very soon you have what happens often, something called donor fatigue. Because you've not enabled the recipients to do for themselves that which no one else can do. So what the Lions did was, by funding the workshop, the blind members of that workshop made baskets, trays, table settings. They sold it to locals at the market, in the supermarkets, and for the tourist trade. So that the $50,000 or so that was invested over time was able to come back in a way that made the enterprise self-sustaining. So I share this little anecdote because it's important for us to understand that when in 1917, and I'll give you a little history lesson, because as a lawyer, you know, you've got to know your brief, and you need to be able to talk to the jury without any notes. So in 1917, Melvin Jones, when he formed the Lions movement, he did that because when he looked across at a business meeting, he realized what a great and noble thing it would be if the businessmen and women at that meeting used the wisdom and the wealth that he had accumulated for the development of their community. And there then was born the concept which has made the Lions Club of America the biggest business service organization. Again, a round of applause for the Lions Club for making that level of commitment in service. Now, ladies and gentlemen, today in the world we hear often the term social responsibility. We also know that the Lions Club is made up of businessmen and women who have, in some way, shape, or form, succeeded in the professions, succeeded in business. And you don't have to be Bill Gates or Warren Buffett or Andrew Carnegie to be a Lions Club member, do you, Mr. King? You don't have to be a multi-millionaire to be a Lions Club member. All you have to have is a sense of social responsibility, an understanding that with success comes social responsibility. You know, some time ago I read in some book, I'm not sure whether it was a good book or some other book, which said as follows: what would it profit a man or a woman to gain the whole world and lose his soul? What would it profit a man or woman to gain the whole world and lose his soul? So brothers and sisters, when you are part of an organization such as this, what you are doing is setting an example to those in society who have achieved some modicum of success, but who are not comfortable in simply wearing the material trappings of that success, but who have a distinct sense of social responsibility and a sense of spiritual rootedness, a sense of spiritual grace, a sense of spiritual substantiality that says, there but for the grace of God go I. And so I must not be satisfied simply in being able to reap the benefits, the fruit of the tree of life, But I must be able to have a sense of responsibility to the society from which I reaped the profits that allows me that car and that nice house and nice dress that I wear and places I go to visit on tourist ships. I must have a sense of responsibility as a real estate agent to be able to go to schools on career day and tell people or young people what being a real estate agent really means. I must have a sense of social responsibility as a lawyer to go to the Prince George's County Literacy Society rather, because there's increasingly cause for concern when about 25% of our workforce is functionally illiterate, cannot fill out an SF 171, cannot fill out a standard job application. So a lawyer or a doctor or an accountant or a nurse who goes to the Literacy Council and helps folks get their GED, high school diploma, that person has succeeded in a way that is in accordance with the Lions Club creed. Now, they may not be a member, but they're certainly candidates in the manner in which they've manifested their grace. Social responsibility, we must have it. Many of us know that there's a country in the Caribbean today that 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months after the earthquake, they have not seen the fruits of the aid given because I have to be frank, we organized in June the Haiti Reconstruction Conference, and we had a lot of folks come, but in a lot of those societies like Haiti, I must be frank, maybe blunt, you have morally repugnant elites, people who've done well, people who lead well, but people who put blockages in the pipeline that will bring aid to the least, the last, and the left behind. And so those of us who are from the Caribbean, we know our legacy in the Caribbean is a noble one. We know we come from that legacy of Marcus Garvey, and Sidney Poitier, and Malcolm X, and Shirley Chisholm, and W.B. Du Bois. His parents were Haitian. And James Weldon Johnson, who did the song Lift Every Voice and Sing, the Negro National Anthem, his parents were Bahamian. And we know that we have from the great soil of Guyana, from the land of the Rupununi and the Demerara, we have someone by the name of Cy Grant who worked with us last year. How many people here have heard of Cy Grant? Raise your hands, ladies and gentlemen. Cy Grant. Let me tell you a story. Last year we produced a book of Caribbean history and I'll tie it all together. And this gentleman I researched was one of the first persons of color to become an officer in the Royal Air Force. He was a navigator bombardier in the Lancaster, fighting fascism for world freedom in 1943. He was shot down over Holland, fell in a haystack, boy from New Amsterdam. And so when the German Gestapo captured him, they were shocked, because here was a gentleman of color in the uniform of an officer of the distinguished Royal Air Force. And they put his picture in a German newspaper with an interesting caption. They said, "Here we have captured an officer of the Royal Air Force of indeterminate race." Because they were so soaked through with fascist philosophy that they could not accept that he was who he was. Cy Grant stayed in a prisoner of war camp at Stalag Luft 3. He organized the Great Escape, which was made into a movie with Steve McQueen and all these other famous people. But he couldn't escape. You know why? Because of his... So he stayed behind on the Red Army in Operation Barbaration, busted the camp wide open, freed him, came back to England with high honors, became a lawyer, and became the first black person in British history to have a program on British television. A Guyanese, a round of applause for Son of the Soil. And he went on to act with Richard Burton and Laurence Olivier. He was as handsome as Harry Belafonte. And he cut a trail in civil rights in England. He couldn't attend with us last year because he had throat cancer. And on February 14th, Valentine's Day of this year, he passed away and became world news. So folks, a round of applause for son of New Amsterdam, Cy Grant. Now, one will say, why does a lawyer have to talk about side grant and history and all of that stuff? Well, I've been around long enough to know that the communities that have been most successful, the Jewish community, Chinese community, Islamic community, they are rooted in their heritage. They have a sense of history. Because when you have a sense of history, you have a sense of purpose. And when you have a sense of purpose, you live usually purposeful lives. You're not out there cutting up, jumping up, doing silly things. And so, folks, I thought it not simply important to do my law practice, but to take some of my time and make sure that I, for posterity, engage the industry of literature to write those books about our common heritage that would mark us out as Caribbean people of excellence. Because we are great people. We come from small places, distant, with funny names, but we blaze the trail of glory, not simply in serving ourselves, but in serving some of the best causes of mankind. We've come to this country and we've embraced not simply luxury type lifestyles, but we've expanded the boundaries of freedom in the United States. We've expounded on some of the principles of service, and we've created majestic organizations like the Midtown Washington, D.C. Lions Club, USA. Round of applause for that, ladies and gentlemen. So let them know, let our children know, let everybody know that we stand rooted in a heritage which made for the Caribbean to be in the first place in modern history when slavery was abolished in 1834.
Ow.
And imbued with that spirit and that self-confidence, we came here, we saw, and we conquered, but we gave back. And it's by giving back to Guyana, it's by giving back to Jamaica, it's by giving back to Barbados, it's by giving back to our community right here, where we go to the schools and we go to the churches and we share our knowledge, which is wealth.
What?
You see, that's the mistake we make.
Does he have to?
Royston and all the other
What
folks
did you
here,
say?
you know it. We don't have to have all that money,
Does it?
but knowledge is, and if we share that power, if people can embrace that
Obviously
we are not
I don't know.
simply self-satisfied to say I
Stop,
went to
stop,
Yale
stop,
or
stop,
Georgetown
stop.
or University of Chicago or UBC or Howard, but I have attained a degree of accomplishment and I've had the intestinal fortitude and I've had the grace and the spiritual worth to share that with those who do not have it. Then you have achieved success. So my friends, I don't want to keep you here all night tonight, but I will tell you that with success comes social responsibility. And I'll leave you with this little story. I'll leave you with this little story about great countries, great resources, intelligent people, but they lack social responsibility. One afternoon I came to my office up in Bowie. Well, if a client comes in and you're a new client, you get a form, you fill that form out, and you tell us if you've got a divorce case, you've got a criminal case, or you've got this kind of case, that, and the other. And someone will come see you. And if you're an old client, well, we say, what's your case number? So we can get a file, so we can serve you. So one morning, I got very flustered, secretary coming back, said, Mr. Christian, there's an elderly couple up front. They said it's an old case, but they don't have a case number. I said, well, that's highly unusual. So I came out, nice old couple, 70s, high 70s, middle class looking, nicely dressed. So please come into my office. I sat there and I said, how can I help you? They said, well, sir, we're here for the money. I said, the money? They said, here. So they handed me a piece of paper. Now, we're in the United States. Now, I know we all came from the British colonial tradition. So you hear of solicitor and barrister, right? But in the United States, there's nothing called solicitor and barrister, all right? It's just attorney at law. So this is what the paper said. Dear, and listen to the titles that they threw on me. Dear Right Honorable Barrister, Gabriel Christian, thank you very much for having served the Cutlers. I just used the name. They are here for the money. Signed, somebody in the city, in Lagos, somewhere. I said, sir, ma'am, do you know me? No. Have you ever met me? No. Did I ever do any work with you or for you? No. He said, take this paper and go to the closest precinct you've been had. Why do I mention this? I sometimes think, and before, by the way, how many of you have gotten the emails? Okay. Any emails over here? Before the emails, I would get facsimiles or faxes. Now, why do I mention this story? I mention this story because when people who are socially irresponsible take the time and effort day in, day out, night and day, Saturdays and Sundays too, and do that which they did to this poor couple, all the riches in the world, all the oil, all the natural resources, all the smarts that are possessed of those humans who apply themselves to knowledge will be of no value. So I mentioned this story to tell, in a way, a parable, and that is, social responsibility is not some cliche, it's not some academic designation, it has real value. And that when we, as Caribbean people, are met at the highest levels of achievement, it's because we have marked our path with respect. We are known to be people who are serious. We are known to be people who keep our word. Only thing is sometimes, as Pablo knows, we come late. We kind of come a little late. We have, we're not perfect. We do have that tendency. But the reality is, I'm proud to be Caribbean. A round of applause for Caribbean people, ladies and gentlemen.
I need to go home.
And we're proud to be Caribbean American because we made the United States, by our presence, a better place. And a round of applause for that as well.
What did you think? I said home. What do you think?
And so the
I said I want to go
Lord,
home.
may
What do
He
you
grace
think I
us with
said?
the intelligence. May he grace us with the spirit. May He grace us with the intelligence. May He grace us with the success. And with that success, may He grace us with the wisdom to be socially responsible and to support organizations like the Midtown, Washington, D.C. Lions Club, so we may always be of value to our fellow men and build our communities. Thank you very much.
Yay, everybody's got that over.
Thank you very much. And by the way, I want to say that we're going to be purposeful. We do have some books out there, and lawyers speak in thirds. So a third of the proceeds of everything we say will go right back in the pot of the Lions. Thank you very much.